Good afternoon, guys. It's Bryson with the Parker County Beef Company. We're going to do a little bit different, a longer form video here today, and I want to talk about the labels that you guys see on your food, not just our products. Once we talk about these things, you're going to start seeing this when you go to the grocery store. You're going to start recognizing some of these things that we talked about on labels. So let's get into it. So before I get started, I wanted to give a quick recap on some of the labels that you might see a meat processor such as ourselves produce. Now, we are a federally inspected, USDA inspected facility, but not all facilities are USDA inspected. So the lowest level of inspection, at least here in Texas, that a plant can provide, it's still going to be regulated on the state level, but that's going to be custom exempt processing. And what that means is that we can process custom exempt, so we're exempt for inspection if we process directly for the individual that owns that animal. For instance, a farmer brings us one of his animals, we process it, we give it right back to him, and all of those packages are going to be marked not for sale. So that's more of like private processing, and dealing directly with the person who owns the animal that's processed. And one level above that is going to be your state inspection. So the Department of Health Services here in the state of Texas governs meat production under state inspection, and they follow all the same rules. They follow 9 CFR in terms of labeling, food safety, and you will see on those products, you'll see a little state of Texas with, Texas inspected and passed, and then an establishment number. But what you'll see on a majority of products, and I would say a vast majority of products in the grocery store when you're picking up, this is going to be any kind of meat products. So chicken, pork, beef, you're going to see this right here. So I'm trying to get that in the camera and see that US. It says US inspected and passed by the Department of Agriculture, and then it has our establishment number. That is indicative of a federally or a USDA inspected product that is on the shelves. So let's start in this video with who governs what goes onto a label. So there's a lot of things that are going to be the same no matter what. There's going to be a couple different elements that have to be on every label of every federally inspected produced product. That's going to be the product, like what it is, the name of the product. That's going to be the establishment that produced it. That's going to be the net weight statement. So if you look, for instance, we have a net weight 1 pound, net weight 16 ounces or 1 pound on our 1 pound ground beef products here. You got to have a net weight statement. You have to have safe handling instructions. So you guys will see this white box right here. Safe handling instructions talks about how you should handle, how you should cook the product. You're going to see that a lot more often. Now that you start looking, you'll notice that on stuff that you're getting from the grocery store, all of your federally inspected products. And then, as we talked about this right here, we call this the bug, and that is like the approval stamp from the USDA. So the USDA, for us to apply that label to any product, the USDA has to be here monitoring what we're doing and making sure that we're following all applicable regulations. You're going to see those 5 things on every label. That is for your simple products. When you get into stuff that is going to be a little more specialty, for instance, this is our pure pasture, 100% grass-fed, grass-finished Longhorn ground beef. So anything outside of, hey, this is ground beef, it's approved, is going to require a special level of approval. Now, who governs that? There is an agency within the USDA called the Label Submission and Approval System, or as we call it as establishments, we call that LSAS. And what they do is they look at the required documentation, they determine if it meets regulations, and then they issue approvals on labels. So for instance, for this, we had to go through LSAS to get our approval on our label, and there's quite a few things that could fall under LSAS requirements or require you to go through LSAS. So most recently, the USDA has published additional guidance, and the big issues or the big areas that they have issued the guidance on is going to be animal breeding, diet, or raising guidelines. So these are all the things that you'll see. For instance, if this is a certain breed of animal, I have some clients who deal with some Akaushi Wagyu, we have to have, or the LSAS is going to require breeding records, production records, some kind of membership in a breed organization that shows that you are, actually producing that breed of animal. Animal raising. So I see a lot of examples in the USDA guidance for poultry. There's a ton of animal raising claims that are made in poultry, free range, cage free, all of these things. And on our end, that would be grass fed, right? Or that would maybe fall into diet, but then you get into diet. This is a grass fed, grass finished. That is not something that can just be put on a label. You can say this is grass fed. For it to go onto that label, LSAS is going to require statements from your suppliers, statements from the establishment. And then there's a lot of things that we have to do on the back end to ensure that we are creating an unadulterated product for you guys that match that claim. So once you have an approved label, you're going to have that in your records here showing that, hey, we talked to the USDA, we showed them all of our documentation, you're good to use that. Then on the establishment side, we have things that we have to do to ensure that that product is unadulterated through production. Now you may say, Bryson, what does that mean? Well, here's an example. Let's say we processed Johnny's regular cow. And then we want to process our pure pasture ground beef. So we process Johnny's regular cow, or we process pure pasture ground beef. The way that these establishments work, under that circumstance, had no additional steps been taken, there's not necessarily any guarantee or segregation that Johnny's regular cow and your pure pasture are different. So what we do is we establish segregation protocols for our products. So anytime we're producing a product that has a claim, a dietary claim, anything like that, it gets completely segregated from any other production avenues. What that usually entails is we do those products first. Our grinders are all pre-op, our cutting tables, everything is clean, sanitized, so that we can ensure that only, in this case, 100% grass-fed, grass-finished ground beef is in that batch. Or we pre-op and sanitize before we produce a specialty batch of that product. So creating a label, ensuring that you can produce a label to those specs, and then maintaining a label is a lot more work than a lot of people realize, but it's something in the industry that you've probably never thought. So here's what I want you guys to do. The next time you buy a product from the Parker County Beef Company or from the grocery store, I want you to see if you can find those things that we talked about on a label, and now that you know to look for them, you're going to notice a lot more as you're going throughout your everyday life. Guys, I appreciate you watching this video. Make sure you subscribe. We've got a ton of these videos coming out, and I hope that this video and these videos we do like this give you additional insight into the food that you're providing to you and your family, and I hope you guys can hopefully feel more connected to the products that you eat. We'll see you guys next time. Y'all have a great day.